Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You wanna get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you wanna go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're no damn experts. We proved that with our last episode.
I especially proved that. The things you said were mostly correct, but
I am really a genius at most things.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say.
You're setting yourself up real well for this episode, huh?
Yeah, this episode, thank God we have a guest.
Yes. And so going back to our last one with the dinosaurs, I did secure us an actual dinosaur expert. So we will have an episode with that.
That's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
They're probably going to,
you.
Yeah. Which is always the funnest part of any episode. So.
Also, I'm just letting you both know. I was helping, we were selling some stuff out of the basement earlier and a guy came to get it. And I'm in my normal like dress stuff, blazer, whatever. And I was trying to move stuff and I got like cobweb. And so now, when that happens and it's like,
you feel it everywhere.
And then everywhere I keep feeling like right here on my face, I'm like, this really feels like there's like a cobweb. So if I'm doing that, it's just because I feel like I got bugs and cobwebs all over me.
So if you get twitchy.
Just a warning, because I'm like,
So don't look at her when you're talking. Just talk to us. So
anyway,
let's break that wall.
You don't want me to mention the cobweb on your shoulder?
Well, I mean, if there's like a giant spider coming off of me, maybe let me know, because I'd prefer not to get bit. Anyway, hello, guest.
What do you have in store for our listeners today? What's going on
besides
here?
that fun story? Yeah. Well, we're excited to have Bryon Gustafson in on the podcast today. And this is fun because this is the first time I'm meeting him. Well, both of us are meeting him in real life, but I've exchanged messages with him on Instagram because we'll sometimes share his really cool content that he posts out there. And so I just slid into his DMs and was like, hey, want to come talk to us?
We sound like really popular people when we say we slid into the DMs, but
or
what
creepy.
I learned...
Or creepy.
Yeah.
It could be creepy.
Yeah, it could.
It's mostly creepy, but I took the different approach.
He showed up, so that's good.
The other thing that I will share, back a few episodes ago, almost 2 years ago.
That was a while.
He was on our podcast.
Right. That's a good face right there.
No one. What? So you've met him before? You know?
No.
Isn't this
I'm so
weird?
confused.
Isn't this
What's
weird?
happening?
This is great. Yeah.
This is what we like to do.
So confused.
Yeah.
Shock and awe.
I had a podcast several years ago.
Okay.
The Last Best Conversation.
Oh, that was you.
There we go. And so you guys uploaded an episode
You
of ours.
were on it, but not on it.
uploaded-
I remember listening to that. That was before my time, but I remember listening to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is almost like a double feature. You're going to hear from Bryon today about whatever Bryon wants to talk about, but also...
I have no idea, by the way. So this is great.
It's my
it's
lure.
going to be
We're all going to
amazing.
find out right now.
You can also then go back to the Last Best Conversation and listen to all of those old episodes, which are really great content about Great Falls as well. So
We had so much fun doing that, talking about Montana and history and all of that. So much fun.
there's just no bad day when you have to record a podcast episode. It's the funnest thing to do for your life.
Right. I agree. Completely.
And I think that's why people start a lot of them. Like I even told my husband, well, I didn't tell him. I asked a friend if she wanted to moderate a podcast between my husband and I.
Yeah.
Pretend to be a marriage counselor and we bring our issues to her and then she tells us how stupid we are. And she's like, no, I can't commit to that because it would really ruin our friendship.
Probably fair. She's like, you don't want somebody involved that you know.
But I'm telling you, that would be a hilarious podcast.
That would be good.
Yeah.
I'd listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Until it stressed me out.
So this is your friend, not your neighbor?
No,
That had
friend.
dinosaurs in the backyard?
Oh, different friend.
Different friend. Okay.
Yeah.
He listened.
Well, he does his homework. He
Wow.
I wanted to do
Bryan.
a little homework. I want to do a little
Sorry
homework.
you had to listen to us then and now.
Yeah.
Especially that episode was just us.
Well, at least you know what you got yourself in for, and you
That's
still
true.
showed up.
Well, and I've listened before, and then
Yeah.
there'll be episodes that'll come up, and I'm like, I've got to listen to this one, right? And
Right.
so,
See,
you know,
that's good.
there's so
Good,
many
good.
podcasts out there, though. It's hard
Right.
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Get caught up or stay.
Right.
I mean, you
right.
could spend all day long just listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you do need a break every now and again. Even there's
Yeah.
a few national podcasts that I listen to that I really, really love. But then I got to take a break because it's like, oh, I'm getting too much of this kind of information right now. And it's not making me a well-rounded human. So
right. Then you got to go find a
Step outside.
I got to
different
go
one.
find
and-
something
yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's usually
stuff.
something to do with murder. And then
Yeah, I was like, that's usually given the topics you listen to. That's a lot
business,
at one time.
murder. And then
Yeah.
I go back to business and then murder. They're so closely
Maybe
related.
the two
It's a
will
vicious
intersect at
circle.
some
It's a
point.
vicious
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah. Have you listened to one about the mob? Because I feel like that kind of brings the two worlds together.
I have listened to a few about mobs, which are usually pretty good. I'm in the middle of one right now about a mob that may or may not have done the greatest art heist in history.
Oh.
Most expensive, still have yet to recover some of the pieces.
Greater than Hitler's
Yes,
stuff?
yes.
Okay. We're going
So
real
they
off.
say.
You haven't even
I'm intrigued.
Bryan.
I'm just listening right now.
Yeah.
They just,
Well, sometimes like on my phone, I don't pay for the premium subscriptions of anything. I'm fairly frugal. And so
or cheap, either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
She prefers frugal. Yeah.
So when you're traveling with and you lose service, then you lose your podcast. But sometimes my phone's like, I'll keep you going, don't worry. And then when we're out of service, I'm still listening. And so
Yeah,
I
you
drove
download
back
them.
and forth to Missoula. No, I hadn't downloaded them. So
Oh.
I drove back and forth to Missoula
How does
last
that even
week.
work?
On the way to Missoula, never lost my podcast episodes. And so I went through like an entire 8 episode series from here to from Great Falls to Missoula. Went fine.
Yeah.
Lost service, but my podcast kept playing. It was a great day. On the way home, that's not what happened. So
That's so weird.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
weird.
confused about
I
what's
think
happening with your phone.
There's,
every now and
there's
again,
some
it's like,
information
Yeah.
missing.
Yes, there is.
There's some information missing.
I think it's just my phone says, I got your back today. And then other days it's like, screw you.
And if you want to believe in that kind of magic, that's fine.
Right?
But my phone does not think of me that way.
No.
It tries to mess me up as often as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my phone and I are buddies.
What is your preferred podcast platform?
Oh, that's good.
Spotify.
Okay.
Spotify. Mine as well. And what is
Is
it, like $10 a month?
Yeah, I mean, it is reasonable.
I
and I
listen
do love
for
it.
free
Mostly
on Apple Podcasts.
Apple is free.
Just saying.
Correct. Yep.
But with Spotify, I also have all my music playlists, which is really the advantage and why I usually opt for some of those premium options.
Yeah.
Is so I don't have to listen to stupid ads.
Well, and
But we are open to having ads on our podcast, and people will not
It's like
skip
that's a
them.
really good. That's a really good pitch to try to get ads in ours. Yeah.
oh man. Well, and Apple was a little bit behind back in the day. You had to pay for pretty much everything. It was like 99 cents a song. They didn't have
Yeah, yeah.
podcasts. And so then
Yeah.
Spotify came along and you're like, wait, music and podcasts, like it's all in one place. And then Apple was like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, we're coming. Right. And so, but I'm like, I'm already on Spotify. It's
Yes.
too late now.
See, I've just never
buddy.
done the Spotify thing.
Oh,
And they have
I love it.
family. And so like I have
Okay.
like 5 accounts underneath. And it's like, I think the family's like $12 or something.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not very expensive.
ooh.
And everybody has ad-free podcast music, and then you start
Opportunity
making
to
the
listen
playlists
offline.
and everything. Yeah,
You can listen offline other ways, but on Apple Podcasts, I just download
yeah. You just
my
download
episodes
it
and it's
beforehand,
fine.
or you can have it automatically
Yeah,
download,
which is what mine
and they're
does,
already
so I don't
they're
even
already
think
there.
about it.
Yep,
Oh.
they're already there.
I don't have that much. That's
I
not my
think she
style.
does. She doesn't know it.
She just doesn't know about this
100%.
technology.
I had just found that podcast, and it played, and I'm like, oh, good day. It's just
I mean, I'm thinking what happened is
good,
you
yes.
were either like watching TV one night or you were in bed and you rolled on your phone. And
Yes.
what happened is like
And
your
it would
elbow
actually download it
elbow
for
like downloaded a new podcast and you had no idea it happened.
I can guarantee you that did not happen.
That's like the best thing that could happen in the like I roll over on my phone scenario.
Why are you guys in bed with your phone?
Are you not?
No.
I mean, you shouldn't be.
I know
shouldn't be.
you're doing it well, but
Yeah.
I was lucky mine didn't die last night because I fell asleep before I put it on the thing, and it was at like 5%.
Nope.
Then I wake up and I'm like, what did I do? Like sometimes I'll fall asleep looking on it and then I get real nervous. I'm like, oh no, what did I press? Buy, send.
Right. Right.
I fell
Don't go to
asleep.
bed with your phone.
I know.
And
I
with the
just-
predictive texting,
right?
you might hit stuff and it'll say just some random things
Yeah.
about
And all of a
elephants.
sudden
or,
you're committed to
I mean,
Yeah.
elephants would be the
dinner
best case
party.
scenario. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've gotten that part out of the way.
Yes, we sure have 10 minutes in. You are also, while we're just talking about podcasts, so you had your podcast and you're also involved with the podcast now as well. Want to tell us about that?
Right. Yeah.
No.
I went from I went from the last best conversation, and then Volta is a local gym here in town that I host and produce, and so kind of the work you're doing on the back end of editing and doing things like that, I do that and posting and
Gotcha.
Tons
Yeah.
of editing on your part.
Yeah, I do so much.
well,
try not to.
we really try
Yeah.
to do a whole episode without having to go in and edit.
Yeah.
You know, you just maybe change a
You
few
do little
volumes
tweaks.
or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Shannon does all of that. I know nothing about that. So
Yeah.
a lot of podcast and technology experience that we've got here in the room.
Yeah.
Is
No
that
formal training.
well? I don't
That's how
know
it
if
works
there's.
with a lot of this, I feel
I
like.
don't know if there's a place you can go yet. I mean, it'll come. Just like brewing beer, you can now get a course on that.
right,
But
right.
I'm sure it's going to come.
Oh, I'm sure it's, yeah.
But yeah, we figure it out. So
Well.
much YouTube
I
videos.
was going to say, like,
Yeah.
YouTube's kind of the place. Like,
Yeah.
it's there, and you
Yeah.
can.
My
you can
husband's
find all the
also
stuff.
like, he legit could have been like an audio engineer. Like he's a big old nerd about this stuff. Loves it. So
Audiophile.
he's our guy.
with no formal.
He's trained, well, he started working in radio right out of school.
Okay.
So that, but also he's basically self-trained. I mean, he taught himself all the things, but yeah, you go into Adobe Audition and he set this up for us. He's
He's our audio
all the
technician.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is helpful.
Yeah, it is very
Like-
helpful. I when I
Yeah.
first started, I had to have my brother come in, who was previously in a band,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and he could
Yep.
kind of help me. Like, oh, this is why it sounds like that.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, shall we talk about other things about really why we brought you in?
Yeah. Why did you
Besides
bring
this
me
lovely
in?
conversation.
Yeah.
Well-
What's the premise you lured him here under?
So I'm going to use this as a visual setup that you can see. Our viewers cannot, but on your right wrist, is that what I think it is? Like a trout design?
Yeah, I have a trout design on my right
Yeah.
wrist, and then trees on my left. This will
Yeah.
end up being like a whole like scene.
Oh, okay.
It'll get into
Yeah.
mountains and stuff like that. But
Will there be
So-
a moon and a wolf howling?
no,
Oh.
I already have the shirt, so I don't need.
Like
Perfect.
like the Dwight Schrute.
Right. Yep.
Yes, you knew what I was talking about.
or The Hangover. He pulls out the wolf and there's
Is
the
that
wolf pack.
Galifianakis'
Yeah, I
character?
have
Yes,
that
yes,
shirt.
yes.
Yeah, I really don't.
I love that. Okay, but you should.
So you're kind of an outdoorsy guy since
Yeah.
you put those permanently on your body.
Yeah.
I love the outdoors.
I feel
Love
like
the
that should be
outdoors.
the title of this. Love, but like 10
like
O's
10 O's.
outdoors.
That would be good.
Perfect.
That would be good.
So let's start with your right wrist tattoo. And I want to hear about other outdoorsy things too, but I really want to hear about fishing, your fly fishing excursions, all of the things. Have you always been an angler? How'd you get
Let's
into
start
it? Okay.
a little bit further back.
Okay.
Where are
Childhood.
you from?
I was going that far
okay,
back.
yeah.
In my head,
Perfect.
I was going that far back.
Then I'll just let you roll.
Yeah, from Belgrade, Montana.
Oh,
So just
yeah.
outside of Bozeman. They're almost connected now.
Yeah,
'cause
they
they're
are.
getting so
It's
big.
ridiculous.
Doesn't feel like Montana anymore.
Nope.
Not trying to put down other cities, but this this
Is
damn
real
city
Montana.
It's
still
still-
feels like Montana.
Yes.
So I'm a graduate of Montana State University. Did quite a few years in Belgrade, which is where I lived, and met my current spouse, who I am in love with, and
That's good. It's good.
still want to do a podcast with him. But
Yes.
when we moved from Belgrade, which was probably 2000,
It's about when I moved.
Oh.
it was on that cusp of becoming
Yep.
weird and different. Now we are season ticket holders for the Bobcat football. That's not a plural thing. Oh my God.
Footballs.
It was
Okay.
so awesome. So awesome.
So when we go down now for games, once I hit Three Forks, I just immediately start tensing up. And I'm like, this isn't fun. Get me to the stadium as quickly as you possibly can on any back road that's going to get us there.
Right.
Because it's not the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Belgrade, you left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
But I was when I was in Belgrade was totally a fishing nerd. People would skip school to go party or sleep in. My friend and I would get on mountain bikes and go,
Nice.
ride our bikes to the nearest river, stream, whatever we could find, and we go fishing. Wasn't really into hunting back then, and then I also met my wife, my spouse, who I love, in Belgrade at Belgrade High School in choir class.
Look at
Oh
how well
my
we're
gosh.
connected.
Yeah, see, there's connections right there. And so yeah, we met in choir class.
Aw.
I can't sing.
Wait,
So
what section were you in?
I was a tenor. I was a tenor.
Wow.
I think maybe I'd be probably baritone now.
Okay.
But I really.
But high school, you was a tenor.
I was
Okay.
definitely a tenor. And then shortly thereafter, she was pregnant with our first son.
Ooh.
Only son, first child. And I joined the Army and was then stationed down in Fort Stewart, where we did bass fishing down there.
Oh, yeah.
everywhere we
Where's
could.
Fort Stewart?
So most people know Savannah, Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And so
Okay.
Fort Stewart is just 30, 45 minutes from,
Okay.
I guess it would be inland from Savannah. Savannah's right on the coast. There's also Hunter Air Force Base connected in Savannah. And
Okay.
that's where that's at. And then Fort Stewart, Georgia is just
Wow.
a little outside of there.
Okay.
My current spouse was Army and stationed in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Oh.
See? Look at
Fishing
that. I
areas.
was Army as well.
Wow.
Army infantry,
you
deployed
go.
twice. Even did some fishing over in Iraq.
Oh,
it was just like
okay.
carp over there.
I was just going to
in
ask
these,
what's
like,
over there.
ponds.
Yeah.
What's that?
So it's carp
Yeah,
mostly?
mainly
Okay.
carp. Mainly carp. We caught a guy one time that was using like electricity. Shocking fish
Yeah.
to catch them,
Good grief.
and he had mainly frogs. So,
Oh, my.
there's
Yeah.
definitely frogs there and some carp. He didn't have a ton of fish on him though. And then my mom. This is not a somber story, okay? My mom passed away as I was getting medically discharged, and she lived up here in Montana. And so when I was getting medically discharged for hearing loss, I don't know if you guys saw the hearing aids.
yeah.
I
it's
noticed.
like-
But we don't make fun of people for that.
you can. It's fine. It's fine.
You shouldn't.
Rude.
Sometimes I like to say I have prosthetics,
Right.
but then that just weakens it because there are people with like real. They are
Yeah.
prosthetics, though. They're fake ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
What you think? Yeah.
So we decided rather than just pick somewhere in the country that we were going to move back to Montana, and her parents lived in Great Falls.
Oh.
And so we came and stayed in their basement while we tried to find a place. And essentially, we've been here since. We took a little break for about 2.5 years, and we lived up in Glasgow, Montana.
I love Eastern Montana.
She's
I did
from
not. I did not think I was going to love Eastern Montana as much as I did.
Yeah. You're right there at Fort Peck Lake for
Dude, I
That's
was
amazing.
7 minutes from a boat ramp.
right.
Oh, nice.
And it's called like the Mule Deer capital of
Of the world.
Montana,
Yep.
capital of the world. What is that? Saco, right
Yep.
outside of Glasgow,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so loved Glasgow, was there for a little while, and then now we've been back in Great Falls for several years. And Great Falls is my
Such
favorite.
a strange moment. If I start crying today, this will be the second time in 5 days.
Which is very strange.
Why
for
are
Oh,
you
you.
gonna
so
cry?
weird.
Not because I want you to, but I kind of do. So like,
Yeah,
why are you
now
gonna cry?
there's the goal.
Connection. Yeah.
So I grew up in Whitewater, Montana, which is just 38 miles north of Malta, which is only an
Okay.
hour and some minutes from Glasgow. spent tons of time in Glasgow. We still make an annual trip to Fort Peck Lake to go fishing every year.
Eat at Eugene's.
Yeah.
And go to Fort Peck, do the fishing.
Yes.
And it's like...
We have breakfast at the Oasis.
Lots of other lakes in Montana have just houses and businesses all around them. Fort Peck, you can go and escape.
You're a little bit more, got to be an independent over there.
Yep.
So...
But that's also kind of the reason I like Great Falls, because
Right.
like we have Fresno and Tiber that are near here that also haven't been, well, and actually way more than that too, if you consider Willow Creek and Nylon. There's some reservoirs around here without anybody near them.
Yeah.
And you can just go and escape.
I think the way I look at it is Great Falls is this last true Montana city, I'll say, town. It's mostly got Montanans in it. And it just feels like the big Eastern Montana town. So everything from Eastern Montana, there's kids here all over who have their careers in Great Falls that are all from that Eastern Montana. So it kind of makes that all feel normal for us Eastern Montana kids. So
Well, it's kind of a hub too, because when you run that Highway 2, you hit Havre and come down. And this is the biggest city you get to.
Yeah.
The only other choice would be Billings.
Right.
And so it's probably split kind of equal.
I'd say 50-50.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that decision is based on where you have kids at.
Right.
Where'd your family go
Yeah.
afterwards? And then that's where they'll gravitate towards because they've got a free bed to stay in most of the time. It's usually that situation. So interesting story. So when did you fall in love with fishing?
It was just
from the
as soon as I
beginning of
started doing
time?
it. So if we go even further back from Belgrade, my dad, when I was first born, was stationed here in Great Falls.
Oh.
Okay.
And so I was born in Bozeman, but it wasn't very long till I was here in Great Falls. I should have started there.
Yeah.
But he would go to Holter all the time and fish right below Holter on the river.
Yeah.
And so like some of my first pictures with my dad are him like making sure I don't fall in the water with a fishing pole, you know.
Yeah.
And so actually the reason we moved away from Great Falls then is because when he was at Holter Lake, he was stung by a bee.
Oh.
He was allergic to bees.
Oh, no.
Holter's cold. The water is, right?
Yeah.
So as he's jumping in, he gets stung by the bee, hits the cold water, gets a disease called cold urticaria,
What?
and it makes him allergic to the cold.
What?
Yep. So he was medically discharged from the Air Force, and we moved down south, where I was then later stationed too. Like we were very close to the same area down south.
Wow.
Is there... I have so many questions. Is there a certain temperature threshold that was like the kind of the breaking point for him?
So the way I remember hearing the story, right? Like I don't remember much from this. I don't even know if I was on that trip with them or anything like that because I was pretty young. Is the winter. So he wasn't out jumping in the water when it was winter, right?
Yeah.
And so summer, that happens. He almost dies from the bee sting. And then winter, he's out shoveling the sidewalk the first time, and he came in and he looked like a bulldog. His face was just like all swollen. And so then I do remember on the military housing that's no longer there on the Air Force. I think they moved them in town.
It's the best resting motel now.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so one of those is what we lived in, but he would take ice and just rub it on his arm, and anybody's arm's going to turn a little red, right? If you do that for long enough. Well, his would like swell up and get itchy from just the cold.
Oh.
And so he then gets medically discharged. And so I don't know what the actual temperature was.
Yeah.
He just knew, let's go south, right? Like, and we just moved.
I have never heard of that
is
before.
crazy.
It's Googleable.
Yeah.
It's Googleable.
Okay.
It's not
do
just
that
making
now.
it up.
Yeah.
It's real.
If I remember, I can put like a show note about this.
It's not the platypus disease. Cold urticaria.
See, he's listening.
I really need to know, what was the actual scientific name of this dinosaur that was the
something
duck-billed dinosaur?
platypus.
No,
Duckbill.
duckbill.
It was
Duckbill
duck-billed.
something.
I mean, but the like
But you
full
had
long
said,
name.
yeah, the full long like scientific
I don't
name.
remember that one.
Okay. All
But
right.
it's
We're never going to
duckbill.
know.
Okay. Oh, it's,
Well, it's a quick. I mean,
science, science is deemed it does not need to
we
be
don't know
known.
what the full name is. Yeah.
So did you start fly fishing or did you fish? Like
So-
when did your you fly fish exclusively now? You're one of those guys?
No, not exclusively, because I started out as what they'd call a spin fisherman, right? So you're using a spinning reel of some sort.
Yeah.
There's bait casters and spinners and different things like that. And that's how I started. There's these little lures called Blue Fox, and they're an inline. Don't confuse this with the type of reel, but an inline spinner.
Okay.
And it's a little blade around a body, and it just spins. I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but it works really well. And so that's what we would use when we were down in Bozeman. That's when I would use when I came from Bozeman. The similarity I found, because I was trying to visit some of those types of rivers in Missouri, can be kind of overwhelming because it's big, was the sluice boxes. And so we'd be on the Belt Creek up there and, just using those little inline spinners. But when I was doing the podcast a couple years ago, we interviewed Head Hunter Fly Shop, which is in Craig, Montana. And he was talking about fly fishing. And I had dabbled a little bit. I've tried it a few times when somebody'd bring one, and I'd try and whatever. I don't know what he said, but it just convinced me. And so I spent a good portion of the year then trying to check off every Montana fish I possibly could.
Nice.
With a fly rod, because I'd caught many. But it got me to realize that there's more fish in Montana than I even knew. So we actually have several kind of high mountain lakes that have golden trout.
Oh.
And they come from California, and they still actually stock them in some of these lakes. And that was the biggest trip I took. Was we did like a 4-day hiking trip up in the Mission Mountains to get to this lake, trying to fly fish. One guy actually, while we were up there, had like 4 of them that he had caught and was cooking.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, why can't I catch one of these? And I knew if I had switched over to a spinning reel, because that's what he was using, I would have caught one. And I ended up hooking one, and it got right to my net and came off, and I wasn't able to get it. But I went on a very big spree of just trying to catch as many fish as possible with the fly rod. But now I'll just go back and forth, whatever makes more sense to me at the time. I don't want to be the snooty fly fishermen, right? They do
have this aura about them.
Right.
Kind of like, I'll say it, Harley Davidson owners. You can find some that
golfers.
Yep.
Right.
There's certain populations
Let's
where they
just try
just
to
get
like as many people offend as many people as possible.
But there's just this level of commitment, I'm going to say, to that sport or that activity that exceeds the general population, where you're like, ooh, you're a little too committed for me to have a conversation because I'm not smart enough.
Well, and that's what I realized too, is YouTube was a big help, but there is so much that fly fishing entails, because there's actually 3 different types of fishing line you have on your rod at all times. So you have your line, and I may be using some of these words wrong. I really try.
Dare you.
My wife actually works in the fly shop in North 40. So
really?
I might get in trouble here.
Okay.
But there's your line.
We brought you in as an expert.
We'll have her fact check you. Yeah, right.
And it's not like normal fishing line you see that's kind of clear, kind of stretchy. It's made for the fly rod, and you can't catch a fish if that's all you have. You have to have a leader attached to that, and that looks very similar to the line you'd use on a normal fly fishing. Is like monofilament, and it goes from thick, where it connects with the leader, to thin, where you can at that point put a fly, but if a fly fisherman catches you, they'll be mad. So you have to, on top of your leader, then put tippet, is what it's called, which is essentially just an extension of your leader, so that when you're changing out line, you're not eating into this 9-foot leader you have. You can save that leader. You have this tippet. And so there's line, leader, and tippet. And I'm trying to learn all this, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it was overwhelming, but local stores here definitely helped. North 40, my wife at the time wasn't in the fly shop. Now she is. I could go straight there. But even then, I could go there. Shields has fly fishing, and really help you out to get to learn it. But I will use whatever means will catch the most fish.
Sure.
And there are times, so we just had, as spring's coming, the ice gets off a lot of these reservoirs. That's when the trout spawn. They make babies, and they get pretty hungry. And so it's one of my favorite times to fly fish. You can spin fish, but fly fishing is going to catch you more fish. And then here in a couple months is nymph fishing.
Yep.
And I'm telling you,
Nymphs are bugs, right?
Yeah, they're
black.
So with fly fishing, you're supposed to start to learn names of bugs and their life progression. So they start out as like eggs, then they go into larvae, then they turn into whatever flying, non-flying bug they're going to turn into. And so nymphs typically are mimicking that middle stage after they hatch before they're a full-grown bug. And so I would never imagine, or even if I was trying to invent a way to fish, would use hooks this small.
Yeah.
And to think like this huge river that fish are going to be able to find that.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're hatching like that, they're hatching out of their eggs, and so they're presenting themselves in the water column. The fish are sitting right there waiting for them. So that's what they're keying on. So when you're in the McDonald's parking lot, you can spot a fry, right? But if you were just driving along the road, you're not going to spot that fry. And so it's kind of that fry. It's kind of similar. They're looking for it, and that's why they can see it. But I was so confused. But there was one day I caught 20 trout in 15 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
Nymphing. And so there is a time of year here in Montana, right here in Great Falls, 20 freaking minutes away, where you can have some of the best fishing in the world.
Yeah.
And one of the really neat things, shout out to your wife, at the North 40 Fly Shop is they do have practice areas to fly fish at
To practice
both?
your cast.
They got rid
Just
of the fly
one
shop, just the one here on the west side, the new
side.
one.
Yeah.
The new one
So you
over there.
can go out and they can say, yeah, this is how you do that, and they'll get you set up. So
They'll set up all those 3 lines. They'll put them on your pole for you.
you can get a pole there.
That day I went out nymph fishing. The guy that was running the fly shop, his name's Fred. He's now out in Craig because North 40 actually owns a shop out there now.
Oh, okay.
And so Fred moved out there, but he literally had a printout of where to put. It's called an indicator, not a bobber.
We know, my
Oh, my
fathers.
goodness.
So where you put your indicator, but then it had measurements of how far your nymph needed to be below that, because the fish are very specific in how deep under the surface of water they're sitting. And literally just followed that diagram he wrote out and was catching fish.
So when you use a bobber, you throw out your line and you just wait for the bobber to disappear while you drink a soda or tell stories with your friends. How does an indicator work on the fly rod? You just throw it out and wait for it to...
It's essentially the same thing, but you're not sitting in a lawn chair talking with friends.
You're just standing there holding your rod until the indicator disappears?
Without the indicator, the nymphs would not be at the right depth in the water column. And so the indicator holds it there, but then also sometimes the bite is so light, you need something to show you where that's at. And so that indicator helps keep it vertical, looking like real food, and then you get to see when it happens. Sometimes the bite is incredible, and like you can actually hear the indicator make a pop sound
Really?
when the fish hit because they're hitting it so hard.
Wow.
It's really cool.
That does sound kind of cool.
So the nymph fishing, is that still fly fishing?
Yep, it is.
Fly
Good
fishing.
question.
It's just,
But
it's a different
great
name.
question, because I had that same question too, because they go so crazy with flies now to make sure it's still fly fishing.
Yeah.
That it's kind of split into 3 parts. Is you have a dry fly,
Yes.
which is what you're going to see most portrayed in movies, advertisements,
They're
things
the
like
pretty
that.
things that you want to take home
and
as a
Yeah.
souvenir.
Or that people put in their hat.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
Okay.
you've seen a lot of those, and what they're waiting for is when the flies turn from larva to the flying thing. That's what that indicates. And so a big one here in Montana, and I was just down the Smith River last month, and there was salmon flies, and they're huge.
Oh.
And so it's just a big protein snack for them that they want to eat. And so we picked up a few of those and looked on the bottom to try to match the colors that they were, because sometimes they'll come out in different colors. And so that would be a dry fly.
Okay.
It's so much fun when they're on dry flies, because you get to see them hit it. And it's a good fight with a fly rod because they're so much lighter than a spinning reel. And then you have the nymphs, and then you also have what's called a streamer,
Okay.
which you throw out. It's kind of they're not all weighted. I don't want to say that, but it's a little heavier.
Uh-huh.
And then it's meant to look like a little fish or like a crawdad. something like that. And so when I was on my kick to try to catch as many fish as possible, I was using a streamer on what, I don't know if it's what the real term is, but we called it the lower Missouri. So if you get right just past Great Falls, past the dams and the falls, there's a different type of fish. Okay, so up here there's rainbows. They're starting to get a few northern pike, but not really. It's still kind of too cold once you get up there. But there's a few northerns, a few walleye, but mainly it's rainbow trout and brown trout that you're catching.
Yeah.
You'll catch the occasional whitefish as well. You get down there, and there's goldeye, drum, catfish, smallmouth, walleye, sauger. I've caught all
just
of those.
Past all of the dams
You're just
here.
past all the dams, and the water's warmer.
It's a crazy mix of fish.
That's why I'm never going to move from Great Falls, is because like this time of year we're going to fish for trout in the reservoirs. Then once the water starts to clear up, because the snow's melting, the lower river is going to be pretty muddy, so you're not going to catch a bunch down there. But you can drive just a little ways down, and right now the sturgeon will be running, and so people will be doing that. And then you can just switch back and forth. You can do cold water species, warm water species, and you're just 20 minutes in either direction, 30 minutes in either direction from Great Falls.
Wow.
It's just amazing.
So let's circle back.
Let's do it. I'm going to follow you.
Smith River State Park is one of the, we've talked on the podcast and, you know, really committed listeners have heard me say, I call it the most elusive state park, because it's really tough to recreate in because it is permit based. But you're telling me you were out there fishing. You can just go out and fish the Smith River?
Well, okay, there are a few spots you can.
Okay.
To float the river and use the campsites, you have to have a permit, and I did.
Okay.
So the T-shirt I'm wearing is Montana Vet Program. We helped Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and the Forest Service take out all the latrines. And so years past, our program was going down and we dig new latrines. They're called pit latrines. They're just holes in the ground that people poopy in. And so the Smith River this year just went to completely zero waste. And so you have to pack in and pack out everything, including your poopies. Well,
and
we
you
were
can
on
get
that
portable
trip.
toilets now. So
learned
a lot about that.
Selway Fabrications is the one I recommend. We use that on this trip, and it's kind of like the Porsche, right? You want your bum on that one.
There's just certain things when it comes to poop. I want the best possible so that there's no chance that I'm going to have to touch or see or any of those things.
Zero interaction. Right. I think that's why the hole is behind us, so we don't have to deal with any of that.
We're not
right?
talking.
We can just
we're not
walk
looking.
forward, and just go forward.
So that's good. Thank you for the clarification on Smith River.
And so when the flows are really high, last year they were at some record highs, and I went down in like 2,000 CFS. The really easy way to explain that to listeners is if you're watching like a soccer ball, each one of those would be 1 CFS. And so 2,000 soccer balls going by a second. That's the easy way to explain CFS. You could have, in a kayak, done that entire 60 miles in one day.
Wow.
It was going so fast.
My gosh.
And you can try to do it in one day, but
enjoy
you
yourself.
can't use the campsites without a permit. And so they recommend people use a permit. I recommend people use a permit because then you're really enjoying that Smith River.
It's really the best way to do it.
And you've been down the Smith?
No.
Do you apply?
No. I do not have apparatus, number one, to do the Smith correctly.
Right.
Second, remember earlier in the show when I said I loved my current spouse? He's not a dude who camps in a tent.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So we're completely opposite people. I get it now.
He thinks he's tough enough to do that, and I do love him, and he can do maybe a night, but multiple nights are not a good option because he becomes a little bit more of Princess in the Pea, and he's grumpy, and nobody wants to spend time with him. He's just better suited in a camper.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
It is not a camper situation.
Glorious. And they did, for out-of-staters, they did lower the amount of permits this year, but still 10% are open to out-of-staters. And if you're an out-of-stater that has money, you don't need any equipment. You just need to find a guide.
Yeah.
And they will bring you down. And that's going to be the best way to do it if you're out of state.
For sure.
The other interesting thing, and I don't remember when I learned this, but it was on this podcast. There are people who turn back their permits. So there's certain times like when you get your permit for the Smith River, you have to go the days they said, like, here it is. These are your days. And if you can't make those days, then you turn your permit back. And then when that happens, you can call the Smith River Park Ranger and they say, yes, we have these days available. So you can do kind of last minute bookings, but it's a little bit more of a challenge.
And you'd be surprised how many people do it that way. There's people that'll go down several times a year because they have a flexible job and they're just always ready. And so they'll call and they'll literally leave the next day to go on the Smith. You know, it's typically, you can do it in 3 days, but it's typically a 4-day, 3-night trip.
Yeah.
And then some people stretch it to 5 days, 4 nights, but it's hard for people to do that on the spur of the moment. But you're exactly right. Call in April, especially this April, because I was just with the guys that handle that phone line. They had lots of people calling and lots of people going down that didn't get a permit, but they were still able to go down because they took somebody else's that
couldn't.
Canceled.
Yeah. So now my next question, the Missouri River, lower river, myriad of fish to be had in that. What I find absolutely amazing fishing the Missouri is you'll put in a lure that's supposed to catch walleye and you will pull out any number of fish out of that water. Have you ever paddle fished? Have you ever caught one? Is it not the greatest experience on planet Earth?
So I know we're promoting Great Falls, but we're going to go back to eastern Montana.
Just a little bit.
Right below Fort Peck is called the Dredge Cuts.
Yep.
And you can over-the-counter buy a tag to bow fish, paddle fish.
Whoa.
Oh.
So
is
when
that
I was,
what you've done?
Yeah, I was a youth pastor up there, and I would have a list of kids that were ready to go hunt paddlefish at night. And you use lights on the front of your boat. You use a fishing reel attached to a archery bow, right? And you go out at night, and those lights illuminate the paddlefish as are coming through, and then you shoot them. And so I got 9 off my boat in 1 year. But we have done the snagging as well, which is down at like Slippery End Bridge, like that.
Yeah,
and
Fred
my
Robinson
wife
all the way.
My wife snagged a paddlefish, 67 pounds.
I'm going to
cow.
say it seems like it would be easier to do the night paddle fishing shooting bow thing
It absolutely is
than
easier.
the snagging.
The snagging anyone can do because you can even go down from the shore, and so there's actually places here in town that just sell kits for it, and you can just buy kits.
Snagging?
You have a really heavy fishing pole, really heavy line. I would say they grade line based on pounds, and so this is like a 100-pound test. With a weight and then a big treble hook on the end of it, and you throw it out, and you keep
try to catch one.
Yeah, you just jerk it back. But they're in certain areas they're also spawning, and they're trying to get there, and so they're all just gathered up. There's a gang of them, right? And so that's how you're able to get them. It's hard though. It sounds like you've done it before.
Yep, caught myself a beautiful male. He was 45 pounds.
Wow.
Ish.
Males are smaller.
Yep.
Females are full of
Bigger.
eggs, and usually bigger. And in Montana, you can't sell the eggs, but you're talking thousands of dollars worth of eggs that you have.
Oh my gosh!
In the paddlefish, if you just Google paddlefish roe, you'll see like what the price per ounce is.
It's the highest end caviar.
Yeah,
is paddlefish,
especially wild caught paddlefish. And so, other states. We're not mentioning any other states here, but other ones that allow snagging paddlefish, they usually have like a guide service or a business that comes along and says, we'll clean your fish for you. In exchange, we get to keep your eggs, and then they can sell them. But in Montana, you can't sell parts of animals unless you're formally
illegal.
It's illegal to do any kind of game animal to sell, whether it's fish or big game or small game.
Just had to ask.
Antlers or anything.
I mean, because we're coming up on paddlefish season. It opens May 1, which is
Soon.
next
a week
week.
away. Yeah. And so it's a really unique time and a really prehistoric fish, almost like a dinosaur.
Ah.
Full
And,
circle.
and you can almost, it's not a like scientific fact, but almost for every pound of fish, you're equal to how old they are. And so you're catching some really old fish.
When it comes to paddlefish.
When it comes to paddlefish.
Okay.
Yep, when it comes to paddlefish. It's not a direct correlation.
Sure.
They're usually a little bit younger than how many pounds they are. But like my wife caught a 67 pound. It was probably 40, 50 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and they do have, Montana does allow for catch and release when you're snagging them. I have a hard time doing that part. If I'm going to hurt them that bad, I want to keep them, but I'm not putting down anybody that does it at all because it is legal. And most of I've shot from my boat paddlefish that have scars and they're clearly healed from it, doing just fine. They're trying to breed.
Yeah.
And so it does work, and it does.
Yeah.
Are you a catch and release fly fish? Like, what's kind of the ratio of ones you keep versus throw back, or what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I probably put back 90% of the fish I catch.
Gotcha.
Not because I don't think you should keep fish. I love when people keep fish.
Sure.
I don't like
Fish.
all the work.
Yeah.
I catch so
Cleaning 'em
many
up,
fish,
yeah.
and I'm not even, that's not braggy. I'm not going to clean all of those
Well, you're doing it
fish.
so often.
Because it is like a pastime. You know, some people may play games on their phone. I go fishing.
Yeah.
I play games on my phone too,
Right,
but I go fishing, and so I would my freezer would just be full,
Yeah.
and the meat I prefer to eat is from big game, elk, deer, antelope, things like that.
Gotcha.
But I
Makes
do
sense.
keep, especially walleye. Walleye is fantastic. If I'm in the mood to clean a northern pike, I'll keep one of those. They taste really well, really good. And then
They're a
perch.
pain in the. I think perch. I'm gonna say it. I call them the dick fish because they're so hard to catch. They'll like nibble at your worm and then they'll disappear. And every time you think you've got one, you don't. And I'm like, the amount of perch I have fed in my life, I just hate them. I hate them.
Okay.
So Lake Francis up here, they have some good perch, and one day I was out with two high school students, and I didn't get to fish because they were catching so many that I had to just take the fish off the hook, rebait their hook, throw it back down while we were ice fishing.
Oh yeah.
And we just filled up a bucket in about 45 minutes.
Wow.
And then you spend 2 hours cleaning them when you get home.
Because they're so small.
Yeah.
Even if you catch big ones, they're small.
They're small.
Yeah, big ones but they taste so good. So good.
I hate them.
Just the disdain.
There's a lot of disdain there. Yeah.
I'm not joking about the number of worms I have fed
Oh,
per
I believe you. I believe
just,
you.
I
My
hate them.
advice, having not been there with you, is use a smaller hook and less worm. That's going to be my advice. So you can try it next time. Find
There you
smaller
go.
hooks, less worm.
Be like,
But you might
Brian's
have little
genius.
danglies coming off your hook, and they're just
Yeah.
taking those little danglies.
They're such a dick fish. I hate 'em.
so
Love it.
What
Ah,
is your
deep-seated.
favorite fish?
My favorite fish would probably be like to catch or to eat.
Catch.
Catch smallmouth bass,
Okay. Eat.
walleye.
Yeah. It's a good
Walleye.
one.
Yeah.
have you done, this is not in Great Falls, but have you done any of the big salmon fishing Alaskan excursions or
You can
what?
fish for salmon in Montana.
You
On
can.
big excursions
Yes.
too. So
Oh, okay.
Fort Peck and Flathead both
Yeah, I was
offer
like, it's more in the west,
salmon
isn't it?
fishing.
Canyon
Fort-
Ferry. Yeah.
Really?
Canyon Ferry has salmon.
Kokanee.
Okay.
Holter Lake has salmon.
Okay.
They're not going to be as big. They're going to be a
Sure.
little smaller, but you can catch salmon. I haven't done any of the big runs.
Yeah.
I did go with a friend one time. When they're spawning, they're going to die, and so you can also snag them, just like with paddlefish.
Okay.
You can snag those when they're spawning because none of them are going to make it. Later,
Okay.
you're just going to see a bunch of dead fish on the shore, right?
Okay.
And so you're allowed to snag them then. I've
Okay.
done that.
Have you done sport fishing with all your travels to the warmer climates?
I've done some deep sea fishing. Largemouth bass would probably be considered probably the top apex of the sport. And we have largemouth bass in Montana, but I have done a little bit of that. Not as much. Montana's my place.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
when I go somewhere, I'm going to fish.
Yeah.
Right.
But Man, it's hard to beat the state.
Right here.
It's hard to beat this state.
Yeah. We always tell people, we're like, no, it's legit world-class
Fishing.
right here.
Like literally
In the
Great Falls.
canyon.
You can go, some other cities that have great rivers next to them. I've fished lots of them. If you ask fly fishermen, especially, or trout fishermen, to list top 10, top 5 rivers that are like bucket list must in the world, right here is listed.
Which is just mind-blowing.
Almost all of them will be on their list.
Wow.
Do we need to say anything more?
Right.
I mean,
Seriously.
we are the epitome of great fishing.
When you go from Cascade, which is just south of us, to the dam, you're looking at 4 to 9, depending on time of year and whatever, 4,000 to 9,000 fish per square mile.
Wow.
Per river mile.
Yeah.
Per river mile.
It's a lot of fish, people.
It's a
lot
lot of fish.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fish.
And you're not shoulder to shoulder with people.
No, locals will complain sometimes.
Of course.
But honestly, like you can fish very easily because the river's so wide. Even during the summer where there's tons of floaters, people that aren't even fishing at all,
Yeah.
you still have plenty of room.
Yeah.
Plenty of room.
Yeah.
And they've partnered with a lot of landowners, and so there's almost no area that you can't just walk to the
Get
shore.
out.
Even if it's private land, they have signs there that be respectful, of course, but
Yeah.
there's little trails that you can walk and
Gain
get right
access.
there.
That's
Which is
one of my
why
favorite
I've
things.
on my Instagram I've shared
Yeah.
and tagged you guys because I'm like,
Yeah.
people should know
Mm-hmm.
that you don't need a lot. You just need a few bucks and
Yep.
then just drive. And honestly,
Yep.
without even a map, you can drive up into that canyon up there and
Just
see
pick a spot.
signs all
Mhm.
over the place.
You're just looking for the big brown sign with a fish on it. That's all
Yep.
you're looking for.
Yep, that's it.
And
That's
remember
Stop
your
there.
conservation license.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which is part of your fishing license. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, if you go anywhere and ask for a fishing license, they're going to get you the conservation as well.
Yep.
Have you, how many times and where have you hooked yourself?
In fact, that's my greatest fear with fly fishing
know.
is that it's going to end up in my butt, my back, my ear, my
when
eye.
Jason and I went, my husband got me a guided fly fishing trip for Christmas. And so last summer, 2 summers ago, it doesn't matter. We did a guided trip on the Missouri to fly fish because he's like, I just really think you would like fly fishing. And I did. But yeah, he hooked me. I thought it had like gone more in my back. It was just through the clothing. But that's my that's my fear. I'm like, not the face. Like, what just?
And it's
Yeah.
tough when you have 3 people on a drift boat,
Yeah.
one in the front, one in the back, and especially if you're both not very experienced. And then you start catching fish and you get super excited.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so it is pretty easy to do that. But I do recommend to anybody that wants to try it for the first time, just go get a guide.
It's
It's
the,
a couple
yeah,
$100 and give them a good tip.
right.
But like they have all the gear. Like
He
you don't
was
even
great.
need
And then I'm
anything.
like, they get it ready for right. It sounds like you're so
They-
like pampered with it, but when you don't know what
You
you're
are.
doing,
You
and
are, and
the
should be.
explanation of all of the, I forgot all the names already of the 3 different parts of the thing. I was like, I should remember these, and I've already forgotten. But
Right.
you were explaining it, but like they do all of that, and you can ask as much or as little as you want to
Yep.
learn the process. But it's a lot,
And they-
especially
and
if
they
you
kn-
want to try more than once.
And they're out
get
there every
something.
day.
Yeah.
And so the fish do move around and they follow them and they know
Mhm.
where they're at. And when you're in a drift boat, you can hit a few places that you can't from shore. And you're with a guy that's going to take it off the hook. You don't have to deal with
Yeah.
any fish slime. If you want to keep 1 or 2, most of them want you to put them back because it's their
Yeah.
livelihood. But there's so many fish up there. If you want to keep 1 or 2, they'll usually let you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they pack lunch for you, all of that.
Yeah,
But
it was great.
we have to get back to your question.
Yes.
So I'm going to answer by not answering.
Okay.
And say the most
Political
memorable I had wasn't me, it was my wife. And when
Okay.
we lived down south, she had, I can't remember if it was in like, as she was casting or she had casted, but her lure ended up in a tree. And we're
Okay.
around this little pond.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to pull it out. Then I come over, I try to pull it out, and I'm not getting it. I'm like, we can't climb this. We're probably just going to have to cut the line. I
Yeah.
don't like doing that. You're going to lose a $5 to $10 lure, you know.
Right.
And she tries a couple more times, and it came out and hooked her in between her pointer
Oh, no.
and middle finger knuckle. Yeah. And I then grabbed my pliers, and I'm like, let me see.
Ooh.
And she's like, nope, you're not. You know, I barely touched it. She's like, no, I don't know if it's hitting tendons. I don't know if it's hitting
good
nerves.
point.
And so we went to the emergency room, and then they asked the question, are you pregnant? And she's like, no, heavens no. I'd only been back from deployment like a couple months,
like,
right? And she's like, heavens no. And then the nurse comes back in with a sheet and she goes,
You're pregnant.
and that's how we found out we were pregnant with our second child was getting hooked. And so then to
How
really answer
funny.
your question, I have been pretty lucky and haven't had any bad hooking where I've when fly fishing, I've hit myself a few times where it's bad wind or I'm just bad at casting, whatever it is. I've hit myself and I think, oh, I just hooked myself, right? And I stop doing it, stop moving, and then I'll feel and I'm like, oh, it just hit really hard and it hurt. And of course, the worst time is when you're trying to get the fish off the hook. The fish, depending on what they are, also have little pokies on them and can hurt you.
Yeah.
Have, some of them have teeth, and so I've been definitely cut by northern pike teeth, walleye teeth. Rainbows actually have little teeth that you can get cut with, and then they will try to hook you. They try to get revenge, and
Right.
so
They're
as
like,
you're trying
what
to
are you
unhook-
doing? I was just having a nice day.
I was just trying to have a snack.
Yeah.
I was just trying to have a snack, and I got interrupted by you.
What's going on?
Yep. And so it's, I feel turnaround's fair game though, so it's
Yeah.
okay. I get a few hooks, it's fine.
Yeah.
And so nothing though that like really stands out besides that one
That's
where my
good.
wife
Found
got
out
snagged
she
in
was
there.
That's
pregnant.
that's a
That's
pretty
pretty
cool
good
story
one.
though.
Yeah,
How was her hand?
Oh, so they just like
Cut the
they just
barbs.
like put a little numbing in there, and they had to make like a little cut
Okay.
because most hooks are what's called barbed,
Yeah.
and they have like a hook and then a backwards facing point
Yeah.
To
keep.
anchor in.
Yeah, it
So
just
like when
keeps
you
it in.
do your rental car return and you have to drive over those things, they're like, don't back up. It'll
it's
puncture everything.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's to keep the hook in the fish's mouth so you don't lose them.
Yeah.
If you go certain areas of Montana, they require barbless hooks, so you can like squish them down, or you buy hooks that don't have barbs on them, because it is better for the fish to use a barbless hook. But you're going to lose way more than just some perch. You're going to lose a lot more fish when you
Maybe
have
that's
barbless
my issue is I've got barbless.
Yeah.
Maybe that is it.
Sure.
That could
We'll
be
call
it.
it that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. Well, I'm glad her hand was okay.
Yeah. Her hand ended up being okay. We had one other point I'm remembering now where a guy did the same thing. He was hooked in the top of the hand,
Yeah.
and we tried to get it out, and he was being tough, right? He even grabbed the pliers and tried to pull, but it was just in there. And so, if my recommendation for anyone, if it's a barbed hook and you can't, so this is where it gets a little gross, but if you can't push that barb to the other side of your wherever it's like you're piercing it, I would probably just go to the emergency room because you're going to tear up some meat in there, and especially if it's in the hand. You got all those tendons and nerves. The doctors know what's in there, so let them take it out.
Medical
Smart.
professionals are kind of experts in that area.
Yeah.
I just I'm always so nervous. It's something like on my always like I
As
do
you
this
should be.
all the time.
As you
but
should be. Yeah.
like that was always my just don't hook me in the face. Like,
Yeah. And
picture
the better
eye.
position on the drift boat is in the back.
Yeah, I was in the front.
Yep. And so in the front, you don't see what the person behind you is doing. And so
Yeah, I'm trying.
no offense to your husband, but it's the person in the back's job.
I caught 2 fish that day. He didn't catch any, so
Ooh. All right. And he
Good
tried
day.
to hook you.
he's
all
not.
right.
He doesn't listen to this, so it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right. Yeah, and so it's the
the
person in the
funnest
back,
part.
their job to watch and
Okay.
time there and not hit anyone. And also, like, as long as you're not in your back cast going towards the back of the
Yeah.
boat, they're supposed to
just
be
have to
watching
be-
and
yeah.
observing.
Yeah. He did. I will say, I'll give him some credit. He got out with Eric was the name of our guide. He was fantastic. I don't know the proper term for this. I know the nymph thing was thrown around when we were out there. I just all the terms and things, but they actually got out, walked away from the boat in the water, and were doing, I think, dry casting. Then
Dry fly.
Dry
yeah,
fly.
Or streamer fishing. One of those two.
I
would
think
have
it
been
was the
probably
dry.
what they were doing. Yeah.
what's just the normal? I'm standing in the boat doing it.
Well, you can do all of them from the boat
That's
or
that's
from
what
shore.
I thought.
You can do
yeah.
all of them. that
Okay.
way.
Well, I think they got out and walked away from the. I think they were doing dry out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You
'Cause
can
it was
you can do
harder.
drive from
Is that
the
harder?
boat. No, I think the
seemed harder.
complication with the boat is other people.
Yeah.
And then also it's a little,
Balance.
I would say, maybe people will disagree with me, it's a little harder to land the fish, to get them in the net when you're in the boat. A really good guide will make that a lot easier, but I've only been down with a guide twice. And so other times it's just friends.
Yeah.
And the boat's going down the river. The fish doesn't want to follow you. It's kind of hard. But when you're in the shore, it seems easier to me to land a fish.
Okay.
But oftentimes they'll pull over like that just because you're in a really good spot.
Yeah.
And rather than anchor, it's easier just to, and it's nice to walk around after you've been in the boat for a couple hours.
Right. Yeah. I was just, was trying to remember all of the terms, and I know they were doing something different out there. Like you changed the line. They were doing something different. So were you using an
indicator in the boat?
Yeah, I think so.
And if they didn't have the indicator, it was either dry fly or
so I think
fishing.
I don't think it was the streamer just because I don't remember that word. I'm pretty sure it was dry, and we had been using the indicator.
Was it later in the day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so morning and evening are
is
better
when the bugs
for
are
dry.
more
Yeah,
there, right?
They're more active on the top.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
what was happening.
You'll see people dry flying closer to the evening.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what was happening. Figured it out.
I'm so glad you figured it out.
Well, there's so many. I'm trying to remember the turns, and but it was one of the reasons Jason thought I would like it is because he's like, I feel like it's pretty fly fishing, kind of like a Zen thing, because you have your like rhythm to it and stuff. I don't know. Is it kind of a form of meditation, if you will, for you?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Honestly, both can be that way. Just because scientifically, there's an element to being outside that is healing, definitely mentally healing. And but fly fishing typically, especially here in Montana, your fly rods are rather light, and it'll be more than likely like somewhere between a 3 and a 6 weight is what they're called. When you go out, like bigger fish, the higher that number gets.
Okay.
But when you're using a pole that's that light, like a 4 weight, typically 4 or 5 weight is what we're using here, you can feel the fish. And so the fight is something different. And when you're casting too, right? You get to, once you've practiced, you get to the rhythm of really feeling that. But once you're hooked into a fish, it's a different type of fight than on a spinning rod, which is usually going to be a little stiffer. We can get into great technicalities here, and people can correct me, but typically they're a little stiffer. The line is stronger, and so the fight is shorter, which is actually better for the fish. The shorter that fight is, the quicker they're back in the water. But fly fishing, you can really just, you feel, the way I explained it to my wife to convince her to start fly fishing, now she works in a fly shop, is like, you're just connected with that fish in just this weird way that to non-fly fishermen sounds really dorky, but it is really cool. And there's some reservoirs, and even like some of my favorite fishing. Well, one of my favorite fly fishing trips was the Belt Creek, and so you leave out of Great Falls and you head east. And we went out past Monarch, and so you start heading towards portion. And I'd never fished that with a spinning reel. And my wife and I, it was either last year or the year before, went out there with dry flies, and we caught so many fish. But we were walking in this creek that's crystal clear, and we would just take turns of who's in the front, because some of those spots are so narrow that it's just like I'm in the back while she's trying to fish, or off to the side is a little safer. And then you can watch these. Sometimes they're just little finger-sized fish. They're just 2 inches to 6 inches long. They're just these little teeny things. But your fly rod's so light, it feels like a fight with a spinning reel that you've caught a big fish, right? Because of that connection to the fish. And so, that's the difference with it. But ultimately for me, I just like being outdoors, you know? And so you're going to enjoy it more the more fish you catch. And so whatever's going to work the best at that time is what I use. But yeah, that was one of my favorite fishing spots, fishing times that we had was up there on the Belt Creek.
I was surprised at how trying to reel it in and keep it, and I'm short too, and so I'm trying to get the line up and reel it and do all the things and not lose it, and it's they're strong. They
are super strong when you're using that weight of material. And the trout up here are so healthy. Like they eat really well, and they fight a lot. But that that pole probably had a lot of bend in it when you're trying to catch it. And that just, as the fish is moving, the rod's doing a lot of the work to keep that hook pinned in its mouth.
Yeah.
And that's why there's that big bend in there. And also to try to keep the rod bends instead of your line breaking.
Right.
And so, yeah, the fight ends up being kind of long and fun. It's
That's
fun.
also why it's helpful to have a guide, because they can like get the net and like help kind of guide that process too,
Right.
at least for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have you done fly
Never.
fishing ever? Oh.
Never.
Are you like, I'm never going to do that?
Oh, no.
Because I don't want to
No,
be that person.
I just know myself, and I think that there's a complexity
Yeah.
to fly fishing that would not suit my personality.
I very much enjoyed it, but I think it was nice to have the guide. Like having the guide there made it really an enjoyable experience, because I wasn't sitting there fussing, trying to tie stuff or understand. I just got to really enjoy the experience.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anywhere, I'm saying this diplomatically and also with a story from my guide that I was with in mind, is there anywhere for people who aren't from Montana or this area who are coming in, want to experience fishing in this area, that you would not recommend going? And I'm not talking about like secret spots. I'm talking about like generally, is there areas that are better or ones they should avoid for outsiders, visitors?
For visitors coming, if you're between almost Cascade, but I'll say Ulm and Great Falls, the fish are fewer and far between.
Okay.
And also, like, I don't recommend floating that section because you're going to have to row the whole time. It gets pretty slow right there.
Yeah.
Right here in Great Falls, people do catch fish. It's just way slower, and you need to have some knowledge to catch fish here.
Yeah.
There's walleye right here in town. There's rainbow. There's perch. The best fishing here in town actually is fly fishing for carp.
Oh.
That's the best.
I've
that's
heard
like
that's
right
a
here
thing.
in town. Yeah. There's the guy that's up in Craig now, Fred, that was at the north lunch break. That's what he would do, is go fish carp
fun.
right here in Great
Is
Falls.
that who told me about this?
Maybe because you and Maddie had Fred on the podcast, didn't you?
Yeah, but I think Fred was on with you too.
No.
Oh.
And so, yeah, so that's what I would say is, like, don't fish like right here in town.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a hard time. Down at Giant Springs, they have a little pond there. You can definitely catch fish there.
That's a good place to start.
It's a great place to start. And if you don't want to leave town, but honestly, like, there's so much information people love sharing about where to go. It's 20 minutes from here. It's impossible to find like bad fishing. Like it's really hard, and everything's just kind of time of year. And so I would definitely, if you're new to town, I would recommend going to one of the sporting goods stores. And so Bighorn Outdoors, like, they don't have a ton of fishing stuff, but they'd have a little bit of knowledge. But Shields and North 40 would definitely be able to share with you, like, hey, where is fishing good right now? And there's fishing reports all over. And then when you're buying your tag, if you go down to Region 4, which is down by Giant Springs, the headquarters down there, you can just ask. And whatever fishing reports they have, they'll tell you.
Okay.
And while you're getting your fishing license, and they'll just say, hey, yeah, trout are on this lure in this spot right now. And they'll tell you.
They want you to be successful.
Yeah.
They do. They do.
Amazing. What's your wife's name, so we can send all of our listeners to go see your
Lindsay.
wife?
My wife's Lindsay.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the only female in the fly shop there. So
Love it.
if you find one in the fly shop, it's my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look for Lindsay.
Yeah, and what I ask as her, what are you saying? Current spouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, current, and will continue to be forever my spouse. Stop giving her your phone number.
Please. She's not a guide.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
We don't wear wedding rings.
Yeah.
When I deployed to Iraq, we'd only been married for less than a year, I think. And for the initial
She said,
deployment,
let's throw those away.
she lost hers to a Chihuahua.
Ooh,
It,
they
had
are
it sitting,
fierce.
and
Stories this woman has.
She ate the Chihuahua, ate the wedding ring, and then I lost mine while in Iraq because I lost so much weight. And I was taking a shower. We were guarding a firehouse in Baghdad, fire station, because people were trying to steal the fire trucks. And so we were guarding that, and it was their toilet/shower. So everything went down one hole.
Yummy.
including my wedding ring. And it's the first time I'd taken a shower in probably a month.
Felt
And
good.
the wedding ring goes down the drain. I reached in.
Oh,
You tried.
no.
I reached in and tried to get it, and then it just drained out to the road.
Oh.
And so I went out to the street after I got dressed and reached up that way to try to find it. And I still probably have stuff on my hands from that. But after that, we replaced both of our wedding rings and then lost those. Not as cool of stories, lost those, and we're like, forget it.
This is
We're
not
done.
These
we
are
don't
not for
need
us.
rings. We're fine.
Yeah.
And
We know
so
we're
we don't-
married.
Yeah.
But other people don't. And so they
Yeah.
go in the
Yeah.
fly shop. They see, I'm married out of my league. So they see someone far more attractive than I am. And they're like, hey, no ring on that. And you
And
like
she
fishing.
likes to fish.
Here's my number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll give it to my husband. Thank you.
she I don't know if she still does it, but at the time she had sticky notes inside of one of the cupboards of all the phone numbers she'd been given, and she'll send me pictures of them. I don't call them. I should.
funny.
I should call
That's
those
good.
guys.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up?
Hey,
Yeah.
you want to go fishing? Me and my wife are heading out.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's not available, but she is available to answer
To
questions
help
about
you.
fishing.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't know the answers, she has tons of coworkers. There's
Yeah.
a guy there now. His name's Josiah. He is so nice. And here's the cool thing about North 40. It's a bigger place. There's several
Yeah.
locations. Right here is where they were founded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty
And
cool.
their headquarters is right here.
Mhm.
So when you're at North 40, no offense to Shields, because they're a great place as well.
And they've got a great founder story too in a small town in North
Exactly.
Dakota, but
Yeah.
ours
Right
is
here.
particular to
And so
us.
if you want to get as local as you can, North 40 is where
is
it's
it?
at. And so that's
Yeah.
really cool too.
Nice.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, because on your Instagram page, you will occasionally put posts, non-fishing outdoorsy posts of you just exploring and enjoying things in Great Falls, like food and things like that. What are some of your, outside of when you're in town, what are some of the
evening-
other things you like to do in Great
So
Falls?
I was honestly hoping for this
Oh,
question.
perfect.
Okay.
Good.
Because I love, I lived here when I was shortly after I was born. Then we lived here for a while, and then we moved away. Then we came back. Since I've come back, there is this newfound love
Yeah.
for Great Falls. We have a great food scene here, and it's only improving, right? And there's some of the big chain things that you can go
Yeah.
find, and they're fine.
Yep.
But when you're talking about like Roadhouse, smoked.
Yeah.
The Magpie now, they just
Oh.
opened up to have dinner. I had my,
Oh, they have dinner now. Okay.
so this isn't for you to, my birthday was Monday.
Okay.
That's why we didn't do the podcast on Monday. My wife was working, so we didn't have dinner, but that's kind of our thing. And so last night we went to Magpie, and because it is now my favorite place to have dinner in town. And the ribs that I had last night,
Oh.
and I've made my own that I thought were fantastic. I've been down south. I've been to Texas. I've been to these places that have killer. The best ribs of my life were last
Really?
night.
Oh, wow.
Were last night. And they also have, I can't remember what it's called.
Wow.
I want to say devil lettuce, but I know that's pot, and so it's not devil lettuce. But it's one of the appetizers that is bacon wrapped dates stuffed with magic. I don't know
Ooh.
what's inside the
Ooh.
date. One of the best things you will ever put in your mouth.
Really?
What the heck?
And so they also make all their specialty drinks, and it's
Yeah. Oh,
totally
those are
Montana.
dangerous.
And so definitely so the food scene, as you can tell, I get super
Yeah.
excited about food.
I'm so excited to hear about the new food at Magpie because
Yeah.
I've had their tacos and
Yeah.
they are epic.
I
Yeah,
most
that's-
recently just tried the pork street tacos for the first time because
Yeah.
I'd heard people rave about them and they were so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. And I don't know, who their cook is, who their chef
Yeah.
is, but oh my goodness, he needs a raise. Every time I'm in there, I'm
Yeah.
like, you just need a raise, dude. I don't know what you're making.
Okay, so the
But-
ribs and the devil's lettuce.
Devil's lettuce. I don't know what it's called. Devil nuggets or something.
Yeah.
I know devil's in the name, but I can't
Okay.
remember what it is. But then we also have parades that go on all the time that are really fun. We have lots of stuff that goes on downtown, which okay, I'm going to do a little backstory
Yeah.
here. I used to take high school students when I was youth pastor on round the country trips
Okay.
where we'd go in these different places we could serve. We'd help homeless shelters and stuff. We were in Chicago one time, and there was a guy complaining about gentrification,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Where the poor people have moved downtown, and now the rich people want to move back downtown because it's cool and historic. And so I don't feel that's what's going on in Great Falls. Okay, so I don't want to say that it's being gentrified, but our downtown over the last couple of years has improved so much that you can just walk down there. They have music that's going on all the time, and there's a coffee shop on every corner. There, you can get a tattoo if you'd like on just about every corner, and they're all like great tattoo shops. I should know, right?
You got those.
And then we have all of these different activities that just happen downtown. The beer fest is one of my favorite things that Great Falls does.
That's super
How
fun.
can it not be when we have the barley, the malt, the water, all right here?
That come just north of town, like
Yep.
what do they call it, the
Golden Triangle.
right? That where everyone makes their beer from there.
Yeah.
And the breweries that we have downtown, in town. My favorite beer on the planet is Blue Fog from Mighty Mo.
That's my very favorite.
Right?
Yes, I
And so
talk
that's
about. It's so good.
So I didn't have my birthday dinner on my birthday.
Yeah.
My wife, when she left work, went there and got a growler and brought it
Aw,
home.
well, that was
Aw.
nice of her.
She is
Lindsay,
just the
you're too
greatest.
good.
You have
She is the
yet
greatest.
to try Blue Fog,
Yeah,
right?
still yet to. I'm going to.
And it's really cool there too because they have like their keepers and the catch and release
Yeah.
as their like
Yeah.
hit towards fishing, which is really
Yes.
cool. And so that's a keeper, so it's always going to be around. But when you look at their catch and release, they always have like a cider, a sour, an IPA, a stout, right? And you can just try different. There are some people that don't like the pizza. I hate them. I hate those people.
Who don't like the pizza?
Right,
Yeah, I don't
because
understand
I
that.
feel that we definitely have our pizza here in town,
Plenty of pizza.
and there's battles. Okay,
There should be a pizza bracket,
There you
and I've
go.
talked
I
about it
think
for
so.
years.
There should be.
Yes. I
just
Because
haven't figured out
Howard's,
how to
if
do
you are
that.
local Great Falls and you say you like
Oh.
something other than Howard's,
People
but
lose their minds.
Blasphemy.
Yeah.
Fire Pizza, I've never had anything bad there.
No, so
and
good.
then I think just below, and they're a brewery, so that's saying a lot,
Yeah.
is the Mighty
Mighty
Mo
Mo.
Pizza.
Yeah.
And their ranch. Are you guys ranch people?
Yeah. Great ranch.
Very
They have
good.
amazing ranch
Their
there.
Yeah.
cheese sticks, phenomenal.
They're
Garlic
great.
knots are good.
I'm going to tell you, our new favorite pizza down there is the sweet and tangy,
Oh,
and it is fantastic.
Sweet and tangy's good. So we did this on accident because have you tried their macaroni and cheese?
no,
No.
it always sounds so good though.
I'm not a mac and cheese girl.
Oh,
Doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. They have
You're
one
gonna
that's
do it
They have
with
one
your
that's
Blue
little
Fog.
Smokies mac and cheese,
Okay.
and it's just a little hot plate it comes out on. It's small. If you don't eat it, it's okay. Like it's not you're not wasting a bunch of food, but try it. We thought we ordered that one day, but they came out with it on the pizza, and it was Little Smokies mac and cheese pizza. And so I see
Ooh.
it, and I'm like, let's live with this mistake. Let's
Yeah.
not tell them.
That
Like, let's
seems
live
pretty
with this
epic.
and see, because I've never wanted to try the mac and cheese pizza. It
Yeah.
sounds like it's going to just be soggy crust and gross.
Yeah. Doesn't
much.
sound like something.
It was so good.
Oh.
I sound like a fat kid right now, and I
No,
am.
but that-
right? It was so good. The Little Smokies mac
I'm
and
gonna
cheese
have to
pizza
just
was
throw
really
caution to the
good.
wind someday and be like, nope, we're all
When
in on
you're-
this.
Yeah, maybe you have
Yeah.
to fast for like a week or something, right? Before you eat all of those calories.
But we're all in on that.
And there's some of the best wings in town too.
I've heard that.
Honey
yeah.
sriracha.
Yeah.
I just do the boneless. I typically I'm a bone-in wing guy, but I do the boneless because then your fingers aren't sticky.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I can
That
just.
does help.
I can take the fork
And they've got
stab
good
it
ranch.
and then dunk it
Yeah.
completely submerged in ranch.
Into the ranch.
Yep.
Into your mouth.
Yep.
And then you fast for the next week. It's fine.
It's all good. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
Or run up and down the trail as many times as
Yeah,
possible.
there you go. Well, they have the Brouhaha Run series
Yes, they do.
downtown.
Yep.
Starts at the bar.
The first, yeah, the
Ends
the
at the
first
bar.
one was at Mighty Mo this
Yep.
last Thursday.
I
Yeah,
saw that.
yeah.
I didn't
Very good.
participate. Did you?
I did not.
I did
no.
not either.
Mm-mm. Have to do
She's
that
the
sometime.
runner in this
Yeah,
group.
sort
Yeah.
of. Used to be. Yeah.
I'm not the runner. I do go to the gym, but
Nice.
running is one of my least favorite activities,
Yeah.
unless it's like from a bear
Yeah.
or
A
towards
necessity.
food.
Yeah.
Mine is
Towards the
always
mac and cheese.
I will run away from things that are scary. So if you see me running, you should,
You should
follow
start
suit.
running too.
Yeah.
We'll just trip her and then run in that same direction she was
Perfect.
going.
So yeah, there we go.
Yep. But there's
That's
also
the
like
weakest link.
the Newberry.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't know if you guys are, you have to know that you gave me tickets one time.
Yes.
Right?
I do know that. That was me.
And
I would not know.
So I got
Yes,
to
I know.
got to go to the Newberry,
did.
and that was actually, I've been wanting to go. That was actually my first time there.
Oh,
and
great.
since then I've been
perfect.
several times.
Who did
because
you
of
go
that.
again to see that time?
I've wanted, so I'm just like devil lettuce, okay? I'm going to say it's wrong.
Totally understand.
But Rainbow Bright, they had rainbow in their name. But
Yes,
do you
gotcha.
remember Rainbow?
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I don't remember
but
their name.
Yeah.
And I actually
you enjoyed
liked,
it.
I liked the band that warmed up with them even
Yeah,
more.
okay.
And so that was really cool
Oh,
too.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
like they're bringing in names that I didn't think would ever be in Great Falls.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
some people coming that I'm like, hey,
Bellamy
Look at
Brothers
you.
is coming this fall. We're not going to mention the ones that are sold out because it doesn't do you any good.
Uncle Cracker. if you're
Yeah,
into
Uncle
that.
Cracker's coming. Aaron Tippin will be
Tippin.
here July 5th after Rodney Atkins at 4th of July Hoot Nanny. Just some epic stuff happening.
Yeah.
right. And then, so you were asking what I like to do in Great Falls.
Yeah.
We have one of the best trails
Oh, yeah.
in the country, maybe.
Yeah.
Like it's phenomenal. And
Probably
if
the world.
if you follow it through Giant Springs, you get to where it's not paved anymore, and it still just keeps going.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so when I'm getting ready for hunting season, we'll put our packs on and we'll go out where it's not paved anymore, past the dams back there. It's gorgeous. You can hike out, hike back, and you're getting your legs used to going up and down hills just
Smart.
right out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just amazing. And so, yeah, like I freaking love Great Falls. A lot
Yeah.
of it is around food, but I love.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Great
Yeah.
Falls, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know? So, speaking of food, something I did last night in downtown Great Falls was I will occasionally take classes at Pizzazz.
Oh.
So, it's the kitchen store downtown, but they do cooking classes in the evening. And this one was all about the art of vegetables. So, it was like how to actually make
Cooking
vegetables
vegetables.
where you really enjoy them and you use different things.
And they don't come out like a crispy
Yeah,
fried.
it was so. And I have one actually a knife skills class, which I desperately
Oh.
need because I tend to hurt myself. That I'm taking there.
Where they'll show you
in
how to
May.
cut and they'll show you how to
Yes.
sharpen a knife.
Yeah.
Which I'm
And
an
they're
outdoors
gonna-
person. I should know. I suck at sharpening knives. Suck.
Yeah.
In that class, you also get to take the knife home,
I do
which
get
is
the
a
knife.
very nice knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do
Nice.
all kinds of stuff. I know they're doing like a power bowls class. I mean, I've done all kinds of like a Cuban class. Yeah. So fun.
So we've done 2 of those.
Okay.
Where you go and you sit in that back
Yeah.
round
Yep.
table. They give you drinks, and then you make your own food, quote
Depending on the
unquote,
class. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Depending on the class. We did a shrimp one.
Oh.
Where when we got done cooking, we went to the cigar club afterwards.
Yeah. Nice.
And then we came back down into Pizzazz and
Yeah.
had a couple drinks, and you get to
love
know
it.
new people, and you
Yeah.
get to learn a little bit about how to make your food. And she's just wonderful too,
Yeah.
like just amazing down there. And so yeah, I have done that a couple
Yeah.
times. But then also, if you're looking for stuff to do, there's Brush Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like there's what is the escape room?
Yes.
Escape the Falls is right down there.
Yeah.
Let's Play?
Yeah.
Let's Play.
Uh-huh.
Dyson Games. Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you know that they let you rent board games?
Oh, that's cool.
Like,
Good
just
idea.
Did not know that.
Yeah, like old school. That's out of business now.
Yes.
What is
Oh
it?
gosh.
Blockbuster.
Oh,
Like
okay. I was thinking
old
something
school
different. Yeah, yeah.
Blockbuster. You can go rent board
Monopoly.
games and
That's
try them
fun.
before you buy them.
Nice.
And they also have like board game nights where people can go and play board games there.
Have
And so-
tournaments. They have tournaments
Yep.
for certain
Yeah.
things
And
back
I
there.
think Luna Coffee, which is a newer coffee shop downtown, they will have game nights at the coffee shop.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
And then we're
And
getting,
open mic nights, so you can sing or say your poetry.
They also do for all the introverts out there, they do like a book club. Or so basically, if you want to be in a coffee shop and around people but not actually interact with people, it's the night you go sit there and read, but
Silent
you
book.
don't like. There's no expectation to.
You don't have to
Talk
talk
to
to
people.
another human.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet,
Isn't
though.
it, though?
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I don't remember what they call it, but yeah.
And then the our fair is way awesome that comes into town.
Yep.
And then there's always stuff going on at the expo park
Yeah.
too.
This weekend, there's literally nope, your episode will come out before that. So yeah, there's 4 things happening at the expo park this weekend because I was trying to get it straight. So there's the gun and antique show, there's the auto parts swap, there's the Great Falls Custom Car Show, and there's like a bridal like wedding dress expo.
Ooh.
So like literally every building there is occupied and busy this weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah. Well, and I was just there last weekend with the Montana Vet Program for the Fitness Expo.
Oh, yeah.
It was its first year doing that.
Yeah.
And so, just really cool.
Constant.
Really cool. And then if you're looking for stuff, because it's what I do, when you're looking for stuff outdoors, there's lots of places that do stuff like that. And I know we've mentioned a few of them, but there's also guide services right out of here and different things that are really easy to access. And most hotels you're going to stay at is going to have the information just right there.
Well, and if we haven't said it enough, our retailers are extremely knowledgeable, whether you want to go out hunting or hiking or fishing or floating or kayaking, whatever it is, you're going to get access to some really great, knowledgeable people that'll set you on the right path.
That's
Not
right.
like me, who would just give you wrong information and be like, best of luck.
Well, and that's the cool
I hope
thing
it's
about
right.
about here in town when I said the fishing isn't great right here in town. I'm glad it's not, because for all of the people that do like to paddleboard or just go wade in the water or even like in the bay here, as we call
Yeah.
it, right next to Applebee's,
Yeah.
people put in their boats right there and they all have fun in the river right there, which keeps us all a little separated from fishing and
Yeah.
water sports. And so it's actually...
Good way to
makes a lot of-
It works
Yes.
out.
It makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think we've fully demonstrated there's plenty to do in Great Falls.
Talked about a lot of things. Yeah.
If you aren't already planning your trip to Great Falls, what's wrong with you? I mean, something's
Just
wrong.
saying it straight today.
Yeah, I have no tolerance today for
Is there...
stepping around.
Not what's wrong with you. Is there something, like, you should start asking the question of yourself,
Right.
is there something wrong with me
Sit
for why I'm not going to
in
Great
a
Falls?
room
Ooh, I
and
like that.
meditate on that and go, yeah, this is wrong. I need to rectify that problem and go to Great Falls. We can help. You can call us 406-761-4436. You'll talk to Carol. You may end up talking to one of us, but most of the time you're just going to talk to Carol.
She's great.
Yep. And there's plenty of friendly folks in our town once you show up to learn more stuff. Like
Yeah.
Lindsay at the Flash.
Yeah.
And I actually get asked questions quite a bit through people I've never met on
Yeah.
Instagram. So
Yeah.
you can totally slide into my
Yeah.
DMs just
See?
like you
Not
guys did.
Not
creepily.
creepy.
And
Yeah.
I love, I have kind of links prepared because people are like, hey, I want to get into fly fishing.
That's
I've got that
perfect.
question a ton. I just am able to
Perfect.
send
Yeah.
them links
Yeah.
real quick of
And where can they? I'll put it in the show notes as well. But where can people how do they find you on Instagram?
just Bryon Gus.
Okay.
It's,
But you spell Bryon differently.
I spell Bryon differently, Bryon.
Okay.
And then the last
Oh, that's you.
GUS.
An hour and a half later.
Wow, we're into this podcast deep, and she's finally
Finally
made
figured
the
out who
connection.
you are.
Made the connection. Yeah.
It's the online thing. Like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
totally.
oh, I know.
Yeah.
Connect the
I
dots.
don't typically, I'm not that Instagrammer that's sharing pictures of me.
Right.
Sometimes on
It's
my
your
story,
adventures,
you might
yeah.
see something. Today, you will see my feet because it
Ooh.
was me walking here.
Oh,
and
don't
so I'm
people
gonna share
get real?
that as
People
soon as
get
we're
real
done.
crazy with feet stuff.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother
my
hole we
kids
could end up
message
down.
me and they're like, for free? Why are you doing this for free?
Right?
And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You don't
put-
wanna go into
put
that
your
world.
feet for free on the internet. But yeah, anybody
Yeah.
can message me.
There you go.
And ask any questions too. I'd love
Cool.
to help out because I want people to come here and realize how awesome it is. People get mad at me. Do you realize this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to promote what's
Yeah.
awesome. And I go fishing on public land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go hunting on public,
Public
land.
land.
Yeah.
And I teach
There's so
people how
much
to
of it.
hunt. And I'm like, no, it's public. And I can
Right.
tell 10 people and one of them might go.
See, that's
Right.
the thing too, is that it's not like every single person you're saying is coming inundating all the time doing
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's kind of selfish to think, and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, but it's kind of selfish to think like that's my personal spot and I want it all to
Right,
myself
right.
and I never want to share it.
It's public.
And
But-
that's counterintuitive for what, yeah, it's just,
Well, and all of that to say is like I took my son out just where we've been talking about up here on the upper Missouri to fish for trout right as we started fly fishing. And there's a spot that you'd kind of walk near the railroad tracks and then you come down and he's fishing and I'm just downstream from him and above him is 7 bighorn sheep
Ooh.
that ended up walking the railroad tracks
Oh my gosh.
right by us. How could I want to keep that to myself when someone else could experience that? It's same exact. It's heaven on earth. It's heaven on earth. And a lot of the times when we go through this area, we're like, why is this not a national park?
Right.
What? I'm glad it's not, because
Right.
we'd have gates on either side and it'd be
Right.
harder to get into. And so you can experience a national park without actually being on one, just right here in Great Falls.
Yeah, so true. I love
Well,
it.
with that,
It's no better way to end then.
I agree. We've given you all the resources you need, all the connections you need, and we'll see you soon in Great Falls.
We Are No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing dam town. Damn, that felt good.